what I'm going to do today is show you, it's just a quick demo on how to replace your project title with an image. It was a project that I was working on lately that I had to do this. They wanted to use their logo, the All of Us logo, so I put that in their project for them. It's pretty simple, and it uses the REDCap CSS Injector. So let me show you the image that we're going to add. So this is the image that I've already got saved on my computer. First thing, so with Terry and I and Colleen, we're able to use the REDCap server to host our images. But if you want to host, if you want to put an image online, you would have to find a way to host it yourself. And so one of the easiest ways is to Google like free image hosting to find sites. But one of the popular sites is Imager.com. And all you have to do is upload your photo. And then it gives you a link. So if we go for the share links here, the only thing is that when you copy this link, it's a link to their Imager page with your image on it, right? So what you have to do is, once you've loaded this onto Imager, you would right-click on the picture and say Open Image in New Tab. And you'll see here that it's the same URL, it's just it has a prefix of i.imager.com. So this is the actual URL that you want to use for your hosted image. So let's go back to the project here, and the next thing we have to do is find out what this element is in the HTML web page. So let me bring that over here. So by right-clicking on this and saying inspect, it brings us to the HTML here. So this div, you can see that it's highlighted. This div has an ID of subheader div2. So that's what we want our CSS rule to be. We want to use the REDCap CSS Injector to apply rules to that subheader div2 element. So let me open up the external modules here, and I'll walk you through step by step which rules we have to change, and I'll show you as we change them. So we want to enable this, and we're going to enable it in all, and we leave this blank for all, so it would apply to all elements and all pages. So what we want to do is we want to create a rule for the div subheader div2. So this is how you tell, this is the CSS rule, how you set the rule definition. So you type in what element you want, and then you put curly braces, and all your rules are going to go into this curly brace. So the first thing we want to do is we want to remove this text. And the way to remove text in CSS is you don't necessarily remove it, you don't make it disappear, or you make it transparent or invisible or any of that kind of stuff. Really, the way they do it is they just move it really far to the left off of the page so that no one ever sees it. So that way it's still part of the HTML. So if you ever have to do, so text readers can still read it, it's still there, it's just not visible anymore. So the way we do that is we use a rule called text indent. And what we're going to do is we're going to shift it 9,999 pixels to the left, and we use the important rule, so that way it overrides all other styles that are being applied to this. So let's save that real quick, and I'll refresh, and now you can see that our text is gone. So the next thing we have to do is we have to add our background image, and we use a rule called background image. And what this does is you specify the URL that you want in quotes. So we're going to go back up to this page, and we're going to grab our link, and we're going to paste it in these quotes. And then once again, we're going to say we want this important so that it overwrites everything else. So now we have the image there, but the problem is the way the background image rule works is it tiles the image. It takes the image at full size and it tiles it up and down, left and right. You've probably seen this on web pages. When you look at the background of a web page, there's like a pattern that just goes across the entire background of a web page. That's how they would do this. And so what we have to do, one, is that we have to change the tiling on this, and two, we have to change the size of this container so that we can see it. So let's go ahead and change the size. We're going to say height is 80 pixels. So that's better. We're getting most of the icon. We're getting most of the logo. We're cutting off the bottom end of it, but we'll fix that too. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get rid of this tiling. So the way we do that is we say background dash repeat, and then we say no repeat. So now we only have one version, one copy of the image that we're going to be using. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that that image fits within this container, because we set the height. We don't want to set the width because that might throw some of this other stuff off. But we do want to make sure that the image is contained within that div. And that's exactly what we do, is we say background size contain. And what that does is it makes sure it resizes the image to fit the container. So we'll save that. And then the final thing we do is we want to position the image within that container. So if we wanted this to be like, if this, let me highlight this real quick. This div, you see this div stretches all the way across that top area. So if we wanted this logo to be centered, we would position it as middle center, or if we wanted it to the right, we would specify like bottom right or top right. So we want to say how we want this image to be positioned, and it's not really going to make that big of a difference here because we've already kind of got it where we need it, but it's always important to just set that so it's locked down and it's not going to be shifting as you move the page back and forth. So the last thing we want to add is background position, and we want to say that it's left and bottom. So that's the vertical positioning, and this is the horizontal positioning. So we want it to be locked to the left of the div, to the bottom of the div. And then we say important, and then we save it again. And that's pretty much it for that. And so every instrument that you have, so if we created a new instrument here, and we go to add edit records, so now every instrument has your logo at the top of it. And just to show you how this would look if we change that positioning, so if we'd said center and middle, Huh? Maybe it's going to lock it in there anyway. So for some reason it's overriding the rule that I've applied. You can see here that it's saying it's invalid property value. So this is a good exercise in troubleshooting. So if we go to So this is a good website where you can search individual rules and they'll tell you what the acceptable values are. So they have center and center. So it'd be center, center instead of middle. I'm used to Photoshop, which uses middle as the vertical and center as the left and right. So let's go back to the rule. There we go. So now you can see that it's centered vertically and horizontally, and this is important because if I shift this page, you'll see that it moves with the page as it's being stretched until it gets to the full size of the page, and then it locks into the center. And so to prevent our logo from moving as the window resizes, that's why we want to lock it to the bottom left. Or left bottom, rather. So now you have your logo on all of your pages, and you could probably set this for different pages if you wanted to. There's probably a way to update the IDs or do some more complex rules, but if this is what you wanted, it's pretty simple to replace the text with the logo. Does anybody have any questions?
That's awesome. Thanks, Neil. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Question is, this is per project, and yes, the answer is if you're asking about the module that Manuel was just presenting, it is on a per project basis. So once you would build in the image for the header, then you would it would just be for that one single project. However, as he's sort of showing you, once you set this up, you can easily copy and paste from your CSS injector. If you want to answer that any further, Manuel?
Yeah, once you have these rules set up, the div subheader, the subheader div 2 is on all projects. So anywhere that title, project title is up here, that's what will be replaced. And so if you have this, if you save this as a notepad, and all you have to do is just update this image link, then you would be able to apply this to different projects. Now the other thing is that if you've noticed that when I'm in one of these, like if I'm in the designer or even in the external modules page, the title of the project is still being displayed. So this only changes the display for the actual data entry views. So, I mean, you really don't need to have the logo when you're looking at the back end framework of everything, but it's really what you're presenting to the user. That's what you want to show them. You could probably, you might be able to change this in REDCap. I'd have to look because the CSS injector might not fire on these pages, like these external manager project pages, the module might only fire on the actual entry pages here. So when it says like data entry, that could be hard-coded into the REDCap CSS injector. So you're probably limited to just that view. Now, there is probably a different a way to do this. This would not apply to surveys necessarily. That would probably be a different set of rules because of the way surveys are handled with REDCap. And so let me go back in here. Let me enable surveys, and we'll just look at that real quick. So you can see here that it wouldn't show up automatically because unlike the data entry form, there's no title, project title. It's just whatever you set here. But you would set that logo up the way you would normally do your logos in your survey settings. So you would have it here for your logo. So we would just add the logo automatically. So this is a way for you to just have this logo as part of your project if you don't have surveys.